and in today's video, we are going to create a project about home automation or industrial automation. So given the instruction, we will use we will create a project about home or industrial automation using Raspberry Pi as a hardware and Python or Node-RED as the programming tool. For this application, three LEDs are used, which corresponds to a room in a house. So we will use three LEDs as representing the rooms of the house, which are the lighting, and the push button will also be used as a doorbell switch. So this house has a doorbell, and it will be represented by a doorbell switch. Then it will only notify the household that someone is outside the house. So and this application also provides security, which it can lock access to the controls of the house, and it can be unlocked through a password. So this application is centralized or utilizes the Node-RED dashboard for this application. So for these materials, we will use a Raspberry Pi 4, Node-RED application, Raspberry Pi with Node-RED application installed, 3 LEDs, a push button, connecting wires, and a breadboard. We are not able to use light bulbs or the actual light bulbs that we use in a house, since we have insufficient materials at the moment, but this application can be used if we are going to use an actual light bulb but with a use of a relay. So let's go to the LED assignment. So the LED color used are red, green, and yellow, which means the bedroom. Red represents the bedroom, green represents the living room, and yellow represents the dining room. Circuit diagram for the application. So as we can see, these are the 3 LEDs for each room, or the lights for each room. The red LED is connected to pin 8 or GPIO 14. The yellow LED is connected to GPIO 15 or pin 10. Then the green LED is connected to GPIO 18 or pin 18 or pin 12 rather. Pin 12 or GPIO 18. And lastly, the push button is connected to GPIO 23 or the pin 16 of the Raspberry Pi. And of course, the cathode is connected to the ground for each LED. And we power this rail with 5 volts, and also that is connected to the grid, which is the other side is in 5 volts and the other is on the ground. And as we can see, the push button has a pull down resistor with a value of 10 kilo ohms, and every LED has 220 ohm resistors, which not indicated in the materials but also this is important for the circuitry enable to enable the application becomes working, or enable for this circuit to work with our intended application. It is the node red part of our circuit or for our application, which or the program itself enabled for our application to work. So first we have the form node and the lock and the button node named lock. For the form node, we can see there is a password and the buttons of submit and cancel. This will be appear in the Node-RED UI dashboard. So this lock button will send labeled as lock, and we will send a string named lock. So for this payload, we will set the payload and we will change it to the payload.password, which means it will get the password property to convert it into a string. So this is the function. This is where the locking of the controls happen. So for this one, we set the message to equal to message.payload. So if the message or the password typed is equal to open, this will enable the controls and we will have a notification named you can access controls. So it will notify if we can access the controls or not. So if the message is equal to lock, it will disable the controls, and it will also notify that the controls cannot be accessed. And lastly, if we type the wrong password, it will say that it is invalid password and we cannot access the controls, or it will notify that the password type is invalid. So this is the controls that we are stating earlier. This is the switch for the bedroom with two values named true or false. It is set on boolean. The same with the switch in the dining room, and the same with the living room. So this means that it is connected to pin 8, 10, and 12, which are our LEDs. And this is the notification node, which can be seen on the top left, or if we're using the phone, it can appear at the bottom. It depends on the browser you are using, or it depends on what device or platform you are using. And with all the notifications written here at the payload is reflected to the show notification node. This one below represents the node for the push button or the doorbell. So for this one, we can see it is set on GPIO23 and the resistor is in pull down like we said, and we set the bounce to 100 milliseconds. Then the function, every time we press the doorbell, we will notify that someone is at the door. And lastly, it will send a notification with OK cancel dialog. So for this one, all of the pins here at the output are in digital output. So now we can deploy this program to test it if it is working. So that program is deployed and it's time to see how this program works. So as we can see, the program is already deployed and now we can test it out. Let's start with the bedroom. The red LED lit up, the dining room, the yellow LED lit up, and lastly the living room, the green LED lit up. So now we can test the doorbell by pushing the push button, and as we can see, there is a notification that someone is at the door. Let's try to lock it, and as we can see, it notifies that we cannot access the control and the controls are disabled. So if even we press the push button, it will notify that someone is at the door. So for this one, let's type our password, and if we press submit, then the controls are back again and we can control the lighting of our room. And let's try to lock it again, and if we type the wrong password, if we press submit, it will notify that the password is invalid and we cannot control our lighting or the lights in the room. And if we type the right password, it will gain access again and we can control our room's lighting.